almost 7 years at Hardin, and it's I've served at two of our biggest hospitals, Baptist Louisville and Central or Baptist Lexington, and then Baptist LaGrange, and then short while at the corporate office. That was way back a long time ago, and then I've been here about 7 years as CEO. The news that's hot off the press for us here just in the last 10 days is we had been working. Our hospital is a 300-bed hospital.
Mhm.
We're located 45 minutes south of Louisville, right along Interstate 65. We're one of the few county-owned hospitals left in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and one of the few county-owned hospitals left in the country.
I was
And we
gonna
really,
say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, as you know that. So, but and while we were managed by Baptist, we really function like an independent, standalone hospital.
Mhm.
By volume, we're one of the top 10 largest hospitals in Kentucky. By volume, we've got the third largest emergency department. I think we're fourth in endoscopy. We're fifth in outpatient surgeries. We're I think ninth in deliveries, and then I think we're 12th in inpatient admissions. But we've got a big footprint. We serve about a 10 county area. There's about 400,000 people that live in those 10 counties, and roughly that's 1/10 the population of Kentucky is in our service area. But the county, just our board, which are the county magistrates,
Mhm.
they serve as the board.
Mhm.
They just decided 2 weeks ago, not even, to sell the hospital, and
Oh,
they've
really?
decided, yes, so they've
Okay.
decided to enter into a exclusive negotiations with Baptist Health, and of course, that's a good thing because we've had a 20-year relationship with Baptist through a management contract. So that's good, and that's big news. That's just happened last Tuesday, a week ago, and of course the board had gone through a formal RFP process to look at different partners, different potential partners, and they reviewed some
But
40
it was kind of a
proposals.
foregone conclusion, wasn't it, for the most part? I mean, it made the
Well,
most
not
sense. Really?
Yeah, but not really. I mean, it wasn't. They were very intentional. I mean,
Mhm.
this had taken 12 months. They started this process August
Wow.
of last year, and they looked at 40 different proposals, and candidly, Justice, Baptist has had some tough times. In fact, Baptist just fired their CEO back in March, who had been here for about 4 years, and the past 4 years have been, in the 28 years I've been with the company, the past 4 years were the four worst years, of the, and so we've had, some culture issues, financial issues, etc.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it was not a foregone conclusion,
Wow.
candidly. Um,
It's
but
so
they
interesting to
still,
say that because I
yeah,
mean I've spoken to some folks who are part of the
hmm
Baptist
yep.
under the umbrella, and maybe I just never got the sense of it. That's what it was, and
hmm
maybe I just need more than just kind of hide in the cars, but, to realize, hey, don't look under the hood as much.
Well, I'm very transparent. I
Yeah.
am the second most tenured executive left at Baptist. Only our CEO at Lexington has more tenure than I do. So
Wow.
I tend to be a little more outspoken about these matters and very transparent. And so other people may be a little more guarded, when they
Mhm.
talk about these things. But I will tell you, and you know this from what you do, it takes a whole village and team of board members and physicians and administrators and nurses working together to build a culture. It only
Right.
takes one or two people to tear down a culture,
Oh, absolutely
and
true.
we just had a really bad CEO, and for 4 years, and of course the board finally took action and terminated him back in March. But so we're climbing out of a hole there, Baptist is, and of course, that was part of the consideration for the Hardin board choosing to enter into exclusive negotiations with Baptist. So it's all good now, and we're on the way back up. And but yeah, so that's a little bit about our current situation. So that's exciting news for Hardin. The past Hardin has been in existence for 63 years. We opened our doors on Valentine's Day, 1954, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why they chose Valentine's Day, but they did. The past 3 years have been arguably the best 3 years in our entire history.
Okay.
So if you want to measure that by quality of care metrics,
Yep.
growth metrics, financial metrics, patient satisfaction, employee satisfaction, physician satisfaction. Our growth rate for the past 5 years has been 11% growth a year. Our employee satisfaction is at the 80th percentile, and we use Press Ganey. Our physician satisfaction is at the 71st percentile, and we use Press Ganey. Our patient satisfaction is at about the 40th percentile, which on the surface doesn't sound good, but when I came here 6.5, 7 years ago, it was at the 10th percentile. So it's that's a lagging indicator. So we think that's going to be picking
around.
up. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but we just received back this past December, a 2-level upgrade on our bond rating from triple B to A minus, and that was huge because it's rare to get downgrades are outpacing upgrades 2-to-1, and to get a 2-level upgrade is almost unheard of in today's healthcare environment. So, and that was from S&P rates our debt, so that we were ecstatic about that. So there's a lot of good stuff going on right now.
There really is.
So
as like you just said, the whole hot off the press. I mean, the ink is not even close to being dried yet.
Right.
Where do you foresee that now? Because you said you had a whole lot of autonomy because you're kind of more in a managed contract with Baptist as compared to now them actually owning you.
That's right.
How do you foresee now your autonomy? Is it still going to be the same? Because it appears that it works, but at the same time, though, you never know what happens when they actually fully take over.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and that's a very astute observation. And we will have to give some of that up. I mean, the reason, of course, and you know this already, the reason hospitals are becoming, and of course, a ton of M&A activity, as you know, over the past 5 years. But the reason hospitals do that are for largely two reasons: access to capital and economies of scale, and that's why we're doing it as well. Of course, the trade-off for picking up those things, you're giving up some of your autonomy, and so that's already, we knew that was going to be the case going into this. But Baptist historically has been our culture and our history to be, we don't have a tightly centralized, way of doing things. I mean, in fact, that was one of the things. We were too decentralized before, and the new CEO comes in 4 years ago and just swings the pendulum all the way from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other end of the spectrum. And candidly, we needed to swing the pendulum
kind of back to the
middle. To the middle. And so what's happened is it is swinging back to the middle, and that's the sweet spot that we need to be in. Our hospitals are unlike, and I'm sure you're familiar with Norton Healthcare, which is the largest provider in Louisville Metro. All 5 of their hospitals, they have four short-term acute hospitals plus a children's hospital. All of their hospitals are in Jefferson County, Louisville Metro. We're the biggest. Baptist is the biggest health system in the state. But our our 8 hospitals plus this hospital are scattered throughout the whole state. We've got hospitals in Paducah in the far western part of the state, all the way to Lexington, Louisville, Corbin, LaGrange, Madisonville, Richmond, New Albany, Indiana, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. I mean, we're all over the state. So, but yeah, so it's yeah. To answer your question, we're going to be giving some of that up, but it's also we know the culture. Because we've been loosely a part of the system for 20 years, we know all the players. So, all the pharmacy directors meet on a regular basis. I just use that as an example.
Right.
So it's not going to be totally new and foreign to Hardin.
So then with that being said, then obviously without stating the obvious, with the acquisition then, but if you just kind of put that aside, on its own separate shelf and just focus in on Hardin specifically, you're doing a lot of things well. But what are you looking to as far as, heading head on those other challenges, or maybe some programs you're launching, or maybe those other things which you're not doing particularly well? I mean, what does that look like for you the next 12
our biggest months, that's a good question. I mean, some of our biggest issues, we have we have grown so fast candidly in the past 6.5 years that it's a little bit like I mean, you remember the Gateway and Dell computers and the late 90s. I mean, both those companies were just growing so fast. They kind of outkicked their coverage a little bit.
That is a great term. I'm gonna use that one because I've been trying to figure out the best term for that, and I always like, the guy's too heavy for themselves. They fell in their own weight, but I kind of like outkicking the coverage. Actually, it's
it's
that
a good
that connects
football
with me.
analogy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a college football guy, so that's a good analogy for me. So you got a great punt, but it's a 65-yard punt, but you give the return guy too much gap to
get runway.
Get it.
Yep.
That's right. And so it's hard to catch him. But so that's one of our biggest issues. I mean, we are literally 70% bigger today than we were 6.5 years ago.
Okay.
And our employed medical group has gone from 8 doctors employed to now we have almost 190 employed physicians and APCs. And, it's a big, I mean, we've got one of the largest, I mean, it's one of the top 5 or 6 employed medical groups in the state. Located.
I'm sure I have this written down somewhere, but just to make my notes really consolidated under you, what makes it Hardin? I mean, how many? We've already talked now the physician group, but what else makes it Hardin? From a
so we have that's a good question. So we have one hospital, one 300-bed hospital. As part of that, we've got 270 acute beds, a 15-bed skilled nursing unit, and a 15-bed psych unit. So that's 300 total beds. We have 2 urgent care centers. We have 1 freestanding surgery center. We have 3 diagnostic imaging centers freestanding. We have 4 diagnostic labs freestanding. We have I've already said 187 providers, I think, in our employed medical group. And I should know the stats on this, but again, it changes literally every month, so I don't have of those.
Sounds like you're also gobbling up as many physician groups around the area as much as you possibly can.
No
that
question.
Seems to be the strategy. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, Justice, the number one. Let me tell you what you've got hospitals and health systems investing literally millions of dollars trying to figure out. They're investing millions of dollars a year in preparation for population health.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you what, and I call it the poor man's strategy for population health. We are doubling down on primary care. Any opportunity to get primary to either acquire or add primary care providers, and I mean both physicians and APCs, we're
Hmm.
doing it because whoever controls it, regardless of what population health looks like, and Lord,
Right.
I mean, look at everything we've gone through in the past. I mean, we've gone through, we've gone through, bundled payments, and now the president pulled the plug on that. We've gone through all this pay for performance and fee for value and all that. Well, I mean, look, there's been 800 different versions of it just in the last 5 years. Well, none of that really matters. Whoever owns primary care, and it's not, let me tell you, the inpatient enterprise is shrinking, as we all know. The
Hmm.
outpatient enterprise and the ambulatory enterprise, it's where it's at.
Yep.
And the next generation of it, obviously, is telemedicine. I mean, millennials want to be able to put their iPhone on their wrist or on their forehead and transmit their vitals to some place
Yep.
where somebody's
Yep.
going to read them and say, "Oh, you've got a sinus infection. Take We're going to prescribe this 10-day course of antibiotics and take 2 Tylenol every day and you're done." I mean, and I know that sounds kind of hokey, but that's probably not that hokey because I think that's where the future is. But we got to bridge that gap because right now, the these how people interact with our health system is changing every day. And gone are the days that people are willing to go to the doctor. Well, they're dying. They're not gone, but
Yep.
it's
Yep.
dying. Where people are willing to go to their primary care physician and wait in the office for an hour and 25 minutes to be
Hmm.
seen. I mean, uh, you get my point. So, but where we, where, the world's changing, but we think if whoever controls primary care, I mean, let's use another Louisville example. Kentucky One. So Kentucky One is hemorrhaging, part of
Oh,
CHI,
it is. Yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
and the Louisville market. I mean, Louisville, it's Norton, Kentucky One, and Baptist only has three hospitals in the metro area, but only one in Jefferson County. The other two are in outlying counties. Norton has five in the county. Kentucky One's got, let's see, Jewish St. Mary's. Well, used to have University, but they just got rid of that. And then Kentucky One's got two other outlying hospitals, one in Shelby County and one here close to us in Nelson County. Kentucky One is a classic example of how they've got a bunch of employed doctors, but almost all their doctors are specialists. So, and they want to know why they've lost volume over the past 5 years. They don't have any. They don't have a primary
And
care
also,
base.
yep.
You got to have the primary care base to feed it feeds
It
everything.
feeds everything. Exactly.
Yeah, it feeds
Because the
imaging.
world is.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
In fact, I would argue that primary care is more important than inpatient beds, and that's just a fact.
Well, the way
And
it's going, it is. I mean, because right now hospitals are penalized. Obviously the whole readmission rates and so forth.
that's right.
So
That's
everyone
right.
is pushing to
Keeping them well and healthy and out of the
out
hospital.
out of the hospital. Exactly it. Exactly it. And only
That's
dealing
exactly
with some
right.
of the real strong acute issues. And then once they're
That's
done with
right.
that,
Get them out and keep them
hmm
out. And you're right. I mean, that's exactly right. And so, I mean, and so yeah, I mean, that's our, people kind of laugh, but that's my pop health strategy.
yep.
My pop health strategy is primary care, doubling down on primary care.
Oh,
So that's kind of
absolutely.
so.
So
So
with Go
but
ahead.
our challenge here's the challenge. So we've grown so fast that we don't have our shortcomings are we gotta have a computer system. We're on four different systems. I'm on one system on the inpatient side. I'm on three different systems on the ambulatory side.
Uh-huh.
Now Baptist has gone to Epic. Norton's put in Epic 5 years ago. Baptist just put in Epic 2 years ago. Of course, we'll get Epic as being part of Baptist, but
Okay.
that'll take
Take some time.
time.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. So
What
that's
EMR
one of
are
our
you on
challenges.
now? I mean, what kind of
Oh my
challenge do you
goodness,
have right
we're
now?
on Meditech on the inpatient side, an old version of Meditech. I mean, we're on an old version of Meditech,
Magic?
and then yeah, huh? I'm sorry.
Magic?
No, it's oh crap. You can tell I don't like even, I don't even, I can't even think of the name of it
Are
because
you
I
are
don't
you
even
are you
like
in
to
the
talk
sixes
about it.
yet? Are you 6.0,
Yes,
6.1?
we're 6.0.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and it's like a early 2000s version of Meditech. On the outpatient side, we're on Greenway, LSS, EMDs. I mean, our ambulatory enterprises, whatever practice we just acquired, we're keeping them on it until we, can transition over to Epic.
Okay.
And we're losing a lot there. We
Oh, I'm
don't
sure you are.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and we don't have a lot of, candidly, our philosophy toward physicians is, physicians, kind of like the discussion we just talked about, they don't want to be told what to do, and they don't want a canned approach. So we allow our docs a fair amount of autonomy. They don't have just unfettered autonomy, but we're not just going to make them. I mean, yeah, we've adopted order set use here, but we don't. We don't have this tightly standardized. Okay, if you're a primary care physician, you got to schedule patients every 10 minutes. Well, we don't push that. We allow. Here's my personal philosophy. If we got a doc that wants to, as long as they're producing at what their income is. Okay, so if I've got a doc that only wants to be a 50, it wants to produce at the 51st percentile, that's fine. But he's only going to get paid at the 51st percentile. If I've
Mhm.
got another doc that wants to work at the 90th percentile, that's great. And she's going to earn 90th percentile compensation. It's so we don't push that. We're not one of these people that are just slave drivers that are just say everybody's got to produce, at the whatever percentile. Um, so, and we're docs like that, and docs, we're responsive. We try to, we want them to use another football example. Our docs are the skill players. They're the quarterbacks, running backs, wide
Mhm.
receivers.
Mhm.
The rest of us are the offensive linemen blocking for them
Mhm.
and trying to help them score touchdowns.
Mhm.
I consider myself, I'm kind of like a center. I'm the
Mhm.
guy that's going to snap the ball to my interventional cardiologist or my general surgeon or
Mhm.
neurosurgeon or orthopedic surgeon, and man, I want them to score touchdowns. Um, so, we don't push a lot of standardization, but that's both a positive and a negative, if you know what I mean.
Yep, I
And
do.
we've got to find that sweet spot. And then the other thing, candidly, I mean, our single biggest competitor, candidly, is Norton Healthcare, and we're 45 minutes from downtown, and they've not yet made any forays out beyond Jefferson County, but that could change. And we enjoy very 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 strong market share throughout our 10 counties, and we're just trying to preserve that and grow it, obviously, but we sure don't want to lose it. So
What
that's
is the
our
patient? What's your makeup of your capture from Medicare, Medicaid, commercial,
Yeah, so
self-pay?
roughly we're at about 50 to 55% Medicare.
Okay.
We've got roughly about 25% Blue Cross,
Okay.
and maybe smattering of other commercial, largely Blue Cross, Anthem, and then we've got, and these are rough numbers. About 15% Medicaid, and then just a trickling of whatever the remainder is there. So it's that's a rough breakdown, and it's a pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good.
Hmm.
In Kentucky,
If you can
Justice,
capture that Medicare, it's and you do it right. I mean,
yep,
and yeah, the margins
yep.
are thin, but you will have a steady stream of income coming in, and know that you will
There's
get
no
paid as long as you
question.
don't. As long as you don't, you know how it is from a standpoint, from a denial
Yep,
perspective. As long as you can keep up with the proper
that's
coding
right.
and the right folks, you should be able to be okay with that, right?
Well, that's exactly right, and it covers a lot of fixed costs, and you've got to, now we're all challenged with that. We've all got to figure out how to survive on Medicare margins, which for the average system, and we're probably about average,
Uh-huh.
we over the entire book of Medicare business, we're getting about 94, 95 cents on the dollar that it costs, which means we've got to cut our costs to get down to that if we were to live solely on Medicare margins. Now, as you know, that's what every hospital does. Is you're depending upon that commercial business to
Hmm.
subsidize what you lose from Medicare and Medicaid.
Correct.
Uh, but no, you're right. And relative to other, the in Kentucky, outside of Louisville, Lexington, northern Kentucky, and that's, as you know, that's the greater Cincinnati market on this side of the river, and Bowling Green, which is a smaller community, 40 minutes north of Nashville. The only growth corridors in Kentucky are the I-65 and I-75 corridors, and that's we're located very conveniently just far enough away from Louisville along I-65. We've got Louisville 45 minutes to the north, Nashville an hour and 45 minutes to the south. I mean, we're in a sweet spot. The fringes of Kentucky, the eastern part of the state where Appalachia is, and the western part of the state, those are the declining economies, declining population. I mean, worse payer mix, in those areas. Um, so we're kind of in a little sweet spot here with that.
So
Um,
from a rev cycle perspective, then how are you performing, and where are the gaps, or where are
yeah,
the potential revenue that you are losing out on that you?
yeah. Rev cycle is, in my opinion, that is our single biggest opportunity.
Oh, is it
Um,
really?
y- y- yeah, I think. I mean, that'd be my guess right now, anyway. Rev cycle, and then just trying to be disciplined
Hmm.
on FTE, salary management. We act like a faith-based nonprofit.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
even though we are government owned, of course that's changing. And of course, as you know,
Yep.
Baptist is a faith-based nonprofit.
Hmm.
Most faith-based nonprofits, I don't want to say struggle, they don't perform as well as other nonprofits, and certainly not nearly as well as for-profits do on labor management. So that's an opportunity for us, and RevCycle is an opportunity for us. But both of those,
Is it your like early out? Is it the bad debt you're trying to collect?
a
Is
little
it
bit of everything.
okay?
It's
Okay.
now part of that, candidly, part of
Hmm.
that starts with we're trying to make four different computer systems talk to each other.
Oh, geez.
I guarantee you, I'd bet my paycheck here and now, we're losing out just from stuff that's falling between the cracks on trying
Just
to make four different old computer
just
systems
good
talk to
old-fashioned
each other.
interoperability issues right there is causing
That's
you just
right.
a kind of leakage.
That's right.
What's the strategy then to kind of plug that gap until Epic comes into play? And even then,
Yeah.
there's still some holes with Epic, specifically when it comes to
Well, there's no
implementation.
question. Yeah,
So
and
what do
maximizing
you
it.
yeah
Right.
what are you planning on doing to make it so that there is some connectivity between? Is it a whole R because a lot of folks are doing is like they're just doing a whole RCM
Yeah.
modular management and just say, hey, we're just going to use this, and if Epic comes in and provides something better, great, we'll switch. But until then, man, we got to stop that 5 to 10% loss we're
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
What's your strategy like?
Well, it's I'm gonna tell you, I don't think we're doing it well. I mean, I don't think we're doing it well.
Hmm.
I've got a consultant in right now that we used 4 years ago. They did a
Uh-huh.
really fine job for us 4 years ago, and it's a small firm. You probably never even heard of them before. F FE Consultants, but it's just a small mom and pop operation. But they did a great job for us 3 or 4 years ago, and we've had them in here for the past couple of months. Um, we have got, that's reason number 862 why we need a, be a part, yeah, to be a part of a, of a system, because we don't have nearly the level of sophistication that we need with rev cycle processes. We're doing fantastic on clinical care and quality outcomes and all of those clinical things. Nursing turnover is low, employee turnover is low, patient
Mhm.
sat, employee sat, physician sat, all that's rocking,
Mhm.
growth
Mhm.
is rocking. Our lowest level of sophistication is on rev cycle, stem to stern. It's a little bit everything. And so we're trying to chip away at it. And this is not, it's a good question. It's a fair question. Our long-term solution is, Baptist and Epic. We've got to bridge the gap because it's going to be at least 3 years before we'll,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
so that's a
And think of and
challenge.
think of and think of the how many either hundreds of million, not
Yep.
hundreds of million, but probably
Oh,
we'll call it
dude.
millions. That
No,
might be,
dude, you're right. There's no
yeah,
question.
that you just
No, you
collect.
nailed it. Yeah,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
So
So, but yeah,
what's your
that's,
AR right now? Is your AR over 50?
it's
Is it
good.
under
It's
50?
no, 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 no. We're at 38 right now. I
That's
mean,
actually really good.
yeah. Oh, dude, we're stoked about that. But we've got manual templates. I mean, our templates are not, our contractual templates are, it's all homegrown. And I think,
Mhm.
we may be, of course, as you know, it's an inverse relationship between AR and bad debt. I mean, you can, I mean, you bad, I mean, I think we could be more aggressive on, on chasing some of that. So, you write a bunch of stuff off and you're going to have low AR, but could you have
Mhm.
captured that, and, so there's, we got those issues. I
Are
mean,
you
we're
currently
not,
part of an ACO too right now to kind of help out with that or manage that, or is that going to be part of the Baptist as
no,
well?
we've already hooked our wagon to Baptist, because Baptist
Yeah.
is, and we had already decided to do that even as a managed hospital. So
Mhm.
we don't have any strategies on that. But the good thing, and here again, going back to Pop Health, again, whatever that might be, whether it's ACOs or bundled payments or
Mhm.
whatever the heck else might be coming down the pike, we are thankfully one of the lowest cost and lowest charge providers in the whole state. So our cost structure vis-a-vis any of the other Baptist hospitals is low,
Mhm.
um, and so we're good on that point. So that's one good thing. And as I said, having primary care, for access and just market share capture. So yeah.
The last couple questions for you, and I'll let you fly here. I'm just fascinated because of where you are and where you stand. I can say that it's not. I have it once in a while, but I tell you, it's more unique where that's so early in the acquisition process. You're just still trying to wrap your head around what are those areas that we can really put you in front of, and that can, that's actionable, that's going to be outside of what potentially could be, well, yeah, that's going to go to Baptist, don't worry about it anymore. That's going to go to Baptist, don't worry about it anymore. But like what you can actually do at your location to drive influence. And one of the things I'm seeing here is it might be like folks who have an employer outreach and growth strategy, trying to go and capture more market share. Do you
Well, you
have,
nailed it, dude. I mean,
okay,
that's one of the things that is on our strategic plan. Now, we haven't really done anything in that space yet,
hmm
but we're having this, one of our executives, in fact, he kind of wears three hats. He's a practicing primary care physician. He's the CMO of our employed group,
hmm
and he doesn't even have this title, but I refer to him as our chief strategy officer because he's really good at strategy. We are having discussions and have been for about 4 months now with an employer, basically we're going after large companies that have self-funded plans,
yep,
and we're having the discussion with them through a guy in Louisville to provide them on-site, and we're using an APC model, which is fine. There's no reason not to use. I mean, it's a lower cost provider than using a physician. Is to use a nurse practitioner, where
absolutely.
you embed a nurse practitioner, and as long as the company has some scale. I mean, it doesn't have to be, I mean, you can go into a company that has you know, 300 or 400 employees, as small as
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
and put an on-site, and you don't even have to offer it full time. I mean, you can offer it, half a day or maybe 3 days a week or something like that, but you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars for these employers on health plan costs. And so we're cooking that right now. So that's a possibility. We do have a near site clinic embedded in we have a large industrial park here,
Okay.
and a lot of our companies are suppliers to the Ford plants in Louisville.
Okay.
And so it's companies like that.
Mhm.
We've got a company here that makes chassis. We've got another company that provides brakes, and these are big companies with 1,500 or more
At
employees.
at each location, yeah.
Yep, yep.
Right.
And I just use them as an example.
Mhm.
But so I think you're right. I think that space is going to be key. I think it's going to be key for not only Hardin but for Baptist to get into that as well. So
As the other thing too is there anything from a maybe because you can we can put you in front from a whether it be with your other folks, they're seeing right now the great leverage points that they can actually pull are things even around like supply chain management, purchasing, understanding, our RDFs and so forth. I mean, just and then when they again look under the hood, like my gosh, we're leaking because that's really what it is. You're
right,
leaking dollars. X
right.
amount by just if you can get things. What about you? And what about Hardin in general? How are you from a supply chain management, from a fulfillment
Eh, You know,
perspective?
yeah, that's a good question. We've piggybacked on Baptist, through
Okay.
Premier for years on supply chain, but I don't think so we've done okay. We've done okay. I would rate us a
Mhm.
B minus on that.
Mhm.
I think we can do better. In fact, Linus and I had that discussion even this morning. It's interesting. Dude, the one thing I'm going to tell you is you've hit on all the big ones. I'm impressed with your questions because you have nailed pretty much everything we've got cooking right now. So kudos to you on that. But yeah, no. So we've got opportunity there. I mean, we don't have the level of sophistication that Baptist
Mhm.
has just on managing inventories
Right.
and all that. So no
It just gets
question that's an
overlooked,
opportunity.
because you're so focused on the
Yep,
care,
yep,
on everything else, and then you realize, my
yep.
gosh, there's just so much opportunity here. And then once you
It's
plug it
true.
in, it just drives so many other bottom lines for you. And so,
There's no question, and we didn't talk about a similar issue, but different is pharmaceuticals and specialty pharma and maximizing 340B. And as you well know, a lot of
mhm.
people have gotten into the retail space, which we have just only begun. We just opened our
Mhm.
retail pharmacy 2 weeks ago. We're starting with discharged patients and with employees first. We've got about 2,500 employees, and that's a good, we're starting there first, and then we'll foray out into the, trying to, capture, because obviously, we
Mhm.
see just under 400,000 outpatients every year. I mean, that's a big market to capture.
It is.
And as you well know, I mean, Norton's has been doing it for 4 or 5 years. UK's been doing it for 3 or 4 years, and they're making big money in that space. So that's an opportunity for any.
Another
You
area
got to.
too that is I'm seeing a lot is just looking again under the hood type stuff. Don't usually understand what it is, but it's just go back and look at your labs.
Yep.
How are you performing the laboratory function? Do you have an outreach program? I mean, how quickly are you
Right.
turning those results over? Because then in the end, be amazed by how many opportunities go through the cracks when it takes forever and a day to get your freaking results back, and they've already moved on to something
That's
else.
right. No, dude, you nailed it. I mean, that's right. And I think there's, Baptist is beginning to have some discussions even among our 9, hospitals on that. Would it make sense to have some sort of a central, laboratory located in, well, I mean, here we are. We're the one, our hospital's right here in the middle of the, I mean, we're geographically located in the geographic center of the state right here.
Hmm.
And we have both, an interstate and a parkway. The interstate dissects. We have two interstates that dissect the hospital north and south, I-65, I-75, and then we have a parkway that dissects the state going east and west. And so we're right in the crosshairs of that for Central Kentucky. But no, that's a good point.
Um, the meetings themselves that you're with, as far as the interfacing with fellow colleagues and your peers and so forth, with respect to the general sessions, the panel discussions, and the think tanks. I mean, we've talked a lot about right here, but is there anything else that provides you just a heck of a lot of value that would say that this would be a win, and just getting some data points you can take back with you?
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, these are all, you've nailed all the big topics. And of course, I'm sure, I mean, everybody's dealing with the same stuff. It's just
Hmm.
varying degrees. But no, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, sharing best practices and
Hmm.
dialoguing, with people in small groups. I mean,
Hmm.
it sounds like the Connex thing is, you get together, folks in smaller groups, and I think there's great benefit just from sharing best practices. I mean, it's kind of the opposite model of the advisory board, where you go to these things and there's 500 people sitting in an auditorium and you're hearing a lecture, and the lecture's good. I'm
Right.
not slamming that, but there's not a venue to really discuss, what you're hearing and to
Yeah, you're
share
really gonna
best
appreciate
practices.
this, and I can just tell right now you're gonna really appreciate, and you'll get perspectives from everyone, who are president, CEOs like your level, and those who are down maybe more in the trenches. So you're
Right.
getting their perspective in the trenches, which I think is important for execs to kind of hear is the on-ground realities. Maybe different than some metrics or some spreadsheets that you're looking at or whatever it may be, right? Now you're like, okay,
Right.
that's what I thought was good, but here it is actually in practice, and then may not necessarily be as good as we thought. So that's why the folks love as well too, because you get a diverse group who are going to be there, who can talk on the same level.
Everything that I've heard from everybody that I've ever, have heard that's either, that's participated in Connex, it's all been good. So,
It's awesome.
yeah.
It's outstanding here. Last question here from you, man. I got a lot of notes here. I can bring back some good, some good, even from solution side. But I want to make these just also as impactful as the other session as well. But is there anything that I'm missing that I should be recommending to you with regards to those needs or gaps or areas of improvement you'd like me to focus in on? I've got obviously some revenue cycle type stuff. I got some things
Yeah.
from an outreach and population health type stuff. But is there specifically like, hey, these are some areas that we can really drive some value?
Well, no, I think you've got all the big ones. Just a topic real quick, and let me talk quick. I got to slide to another meeting here, but, it'd be interesting. Hey, it's funny. Don't laugh too hard. I gave a talk last week at a critical access conference down in Nashville about the opioid crisis and how it's affecting violence in hospitals. And that's something I'd just like to hear, how are other people tackling that? Because it is becoming
Yeah,
ridiculous. I mean, it is
yeah,
out of control. And
yeah.
I mean, just in the last 6 to 12 months, it's been crazy. And of course, we have as you know, it's one of the biggest ERs in the state. I mean, we're seeing 72,000 ED visits a year, but it's a zoo down there, and drug seekers and people coming to strung out on opioids, both prescription and street drugs, and it's just
Hmm.
getting to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, and I know that's not really I mean, that's kind of you know a little different than some of these other topics,
It definitely is, but it's that's on the rise. It's now been considered an epidemic, so it's something that's going to have to be addressed. That's for sure.
dude,
So
I think it's a major health crisis,
yeah,
and
yep.
and we've got to deal with it. So anyway,
Well, good. Well, do you have any questions on for me? I know you got to jump to the meeting, but do you have any questions to make sure that you're we've got them all ready to go
yeah,
for our
no,
next
I
call?
appreciate it. No, I'm
All
looking
right.
forward to it, and I was impressed with your. I mean, you nailed it